Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
Hey everyone, so glad you are here with us today.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating deep dive for you today. But before we jump into the overview, just a quick reminder. If you're planning a trip and want the honest, is it worth it verdict before you book, follow the show on Spotify or Apple.
Definitely do that. It really helps us out.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. Usually when you sit down and decide to book a major international trip, right? Especially around a world-famous wildlife attraction, there is this underlying expectation of a very clean, straightforward transaction.
Right, like a guarantee.
Exactly. It's a lot like going to a museum.
Yeah.
You buy the ticket to the Louvre, you walk through the crowded halls, you put up with the lines, and the Mona Lisa is hanging exactly where the brochure promised it would be.
Yeah, it's a comforting binary contract.
Right.
You provide the logistical effort, you hand over the funds, and the destination provides the spectacle. I mean, the painting doesn't migrate.
No.
The painting doesn't starve. It just, waits for you.
It's either on the wall or the museum is closed for renovations. There is no in-between.
Yeah.
But the moment you step out of the museum and into the world of ecotourism, that rock-solid guarantee just evaporates.
It completely disappears.
Yeah, you are stepping into a living, breathing, and sometimes, dying ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are looking at the travel landscape right now, especially post-2025, it is incredibly volatile.
So volatile.
You're no longer buying a guaranteed bond, right?
Yeah.
You are investing in a highly unpredictable stock market of environmental baselines.
That is honestly the perfect way to frame it. The environmental baseline, what we consider normal for a destination, is just shifting way faster than the travel marketing can keep up with.
Oh, for sure.
And that disconnect between what you are sold online and what you actually experience on the ground, it's causing a lot of friction for travelers right now.
And that exact friction is what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. So our mission today is to take you far off the beaten path to a place called Koh Libong.
Yes, Koh Libong.
For those who aren't familiar, this is the largest of the Trang Islands, tucked away down in the southern Thai Andaman Sea.
Right.
And we are trying to answer one core question for anyone looking at a trip in 2026 or 2027.
Right.
Is a destination still worth your time and money when it's absolute star attraction? The very thing that put it on the global map is rapidly disappearing.
It is such a complex question. And, Koh Libong might be the most perfect case study in the world right now for this exact dilemma.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Just to orient you geographically, if you close your eyes and picture a Thai island, you might be imagining the massive cruise ship terminals of Phuket.
Or the endless neon bar strips of Koh Phi Phi.
Right, or those towering luxury mega resorts. I need you to completely erase that image from your mind.
I've rubbed it completely. Koh Libong is the anti-Phuket.
Truly. It is a quiet, working, fundamentally authentic corner of the Andaman. It's the kind of place where a sprawling, incredibly fresh seafood dinner for two people is going to cost you roughly $16 US. Total.
$16?
Yeah. You're surrounded by rubber trees and fishing villages. But beneath that idyllic surface, it's also an island that is currently undergoing a completely heartbreaking environmental shift.
Which leads us directly to the central, seemingly impossible contradiction that we found when diving into all the data and travel reports for this year.
And this is the really wild part.
It is.
Yeah.
The numbers suggest that Koh Libong is simultaneously the absolute best value quiet island in the entire Trang chain.
Right.
And at the exact same time, the absolute worst value wildlife trip in Thailand. Both of those extreme statements are demonstrably true right now.
And you can imagine the tension that creates for a traveler sitting at home with their laptop trying to figure out if they should hit the book button.
Oh, absolutely.
You have this incredibly alluring low cost of living and undeniable authenticity on one side of the scale, and this vanishing core attraction on the other.
But wait, I have to push back on this right away. Because my immediate thought as a traveler is, well, if a place is globally famous for one specific thing, and that thing is essentially gone, why are we even talking about it?
That's a fair point.
Right? Why not just cross it off the list and go somewhere else? But if we want to give you, the listener, the honest, unvarnished verdict on whether this island is worth your time, we really have to look at the entire ecological picture.
We do.
So let's just start with the elephant in the room. Or, more accurately, the sea cow in the ocean.
Yes. We need to talk about the dugongs. For decades, Koh Libong has been synonymous with one thing, right? It is Thailand's Dugong Island.
Right.
It has historically been the premier, most reliable habitat in Southeast Asia for these incredibly elusive marine mammals.
Okay, before we get into the collapse, we need to understand what we're actually losing here.
Mhm.
Because for those who aren't marine biologists, a dugong isn't just a manatee, right?
No, they're different.
What exactly is this creature that people are flying across the globe to see?
So, they are cousins to the manatee, but they are distinctly different. Dugongs are strictly marine, meaning they never enter freshwater.
Okay, got it.
And they have these beautiful fluked tails that look a lot like a whale's tail, rather than the rounded paddle of a manatee. They are often called the lawnmowers of the sea.
Lawnmowers of the sea, I love them.
Yeah, they have this downward-facing snout that is perfectly evolved for grazing on the ocean floor, and crucially, they are the only entirely herbivorous marine mammal.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are gentle, slow-moving, and historically, they held a massive place in Thai maritime culture and folklore. They are essentially the gentle giants of the Andaman.
So you have this iconic, gentle creature, and the statistics for their population around Koh Libong from 2023 to 2026 are just staggering. They really are. In 2023, the population of these protected waters was sitting at around 194 individuals.
Which, contextually, is a very robust, healthy number for a localized, highly specific habitat.
But then, the floor just fell out.
Huh.
By early 2025, that number had plummeted to a terrifying low of just 10 individual dugongs.
Yeah. 10.
I'm going to repeat that because it's just hard to process.
Yeah.
From 194 down to 10 in roughly 2 years.
It's devastating.
Now, looking at the data for 2026, we are seeing a slight tentative rebound, right? Edging back up to roughly 33 individuals.
Right.
But the baseline has fundamentally shattered. The absolute wildlife guarantee that travelers used to bank their entire itineraries on is completely irrevocably gone.
And we absolutely cannot just list those numbers without explaining the mechanism behind them, because this wasn't a virus.
Right.
This wasn't predators moving into the area. This wasn't even primarily a random migration pattern. The ecological reality here is tied directly to their food source.
Which is what?
Dugongs eat one thing, seagrass, specifically a type called Halophila ovalis, or paddleweed.
Yeah.
And between 2020 and 2024, the seagrass meadows in the waters surrounding Koh Libong shrank by up to 50%.
Okay, but why? I mean, the ocean didn't just decide to delete 50% of its vegetation. What actually killed the seagrass? Are we talking about tourist boats ripping it up with their propellers? Or is this a larger climate story?
It's really a devastating cocktail of environmental factors. It's largely driven by the broader climate story, combined with some very local coastal issues.
Okay.
Seagrass needs very specific conditions to thrive. It needs clear water to photosynthesize, and it needs a stable seabed.
Makes sense.
What we've seen in the Andaman is a combination of rising sea surface temperatures, which basically stresses and cooks the grass in the shallow tidal zones, and massive increases in coastal sediment runoff from the mainland.
So the water gets hotter and it gets murkier.
Exactly. When agricultural runoff or unregulated coastal development dumps sediment into the water, it increases the turbidity.
Right, the cloudiness.
Yeah, the water gets cloudy, the sunlight can't reach the bottom, the seagrass can't photosynthesize, and the intricate root systems, the rhizomes, literally rot and die off. 50% of their sole food source just gone. And the causality there is brutal. Without that seagrass, the dugongs didn't just decide to pack up and swim to Malaysia. They faced mass starvation.
They did.
The data shows that across 2023 and 2024, there was an average of 42 dugong deaths a year washing up on the shores. That is more than double the mortality rate of any earlier recorded period.
That's so sad.
The ones that didn't die were forced to scatter into deeper, uncharted waters, desperately looking for food, which is why the local population collapsed to 10.
Right.
The 33 we see now in 2026 are likely returning stragglers, finding small patches of recovering grass, but the ecosystem is incredibly fragile.
And this ecological tragedy completely rewrites the economics of the travel experience here.
Oh, entirely.
Because the primary tension here is the idea of effort versus payoff. Imagine the psychology of a tourist right now. You're sitting in London or New York. You've read a glowing travel blog from 2021 that promises a dugong guarantee at Koh Libong. You fly to Bangkok, you take the trains, you take the boats, you wake up at 5 a.m., you hire a private long-tail boat for the morning, which is going to set you back anywhere from $40 to $80 US. You are buzzing with anticipation.
Right. You've got your telephoto lens ready, your polarized sunglasses on.
And instead of seeing a pod of majestic sea cows grazing in crystal clear water,
You spend 3 hours baking in the sun, staring at empty, dying, muddy seagrass beds. You see absolutely nothing.
It is the ultimate travel betrayal. It's exactly like buying a premium ticket to see your absolute favorite band.
Yes.
You travel to the stadium, you buy the merch, you get to your front row seat, and then an announcer comes on and says, the band actually broke up 2 years ago, but please enjoy staring at the empty stage.
Oh, and no refunds.
Right, exactly. The venue is still open, and they're still charging full price at the door.
Oh.
I mean, if the sea cows are quite literally starving, should tourists even be taking boats out there in 2026? Isn't it almost unethical to chase the last 33 starving animals around with a motorized boat?
That is the exact debate happening in ecotourism circles right now. From a purely practical standpoint, anyone who books a trip to Koh Libong today expecting a guaranteed dugong sighting is walking into a trap.
A huge trap.
The absolute hard rule for 2026 and 2027 is skip this island entirely if a confirmed wildlife sighting is the sole justification for your trip. Nobody can promise it. The local guides know it. The marine biologists know it.
But that puts the local community in an incredibly dark position. You have entire families, boat captains, guides, homestay owners who have built a generational livelihood around this one specific animal. When nature pulls the rug out from under you, how does an island rebrand itself?
That is the existential crisis of Koh Libong right now. They are currently being forced to transition from being a wildlife destination to being an atmosphere destination.
And that transition is rocky. Because if we strip away the dugong guarantee, if we completely remove the Mona Lisa from the museum, the value of the museum rests entirely on the architecture of the building itself.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. So for Koh Libong, the value now rests 100% on the cost of living there, the atmospheric vibe, and the pure logistics of the journey.
And that journey is a massive filter.
Right.
Getting to Koh Libong is not a trivial undertaking. It is a multi-leg, physically demanding journey that is either going to deeply charm you or completely break your spirit, depending entirely on your psychological tolerance for what we call slow travel.
I am so glad you brought up slow travel, because people throw that buzzword around a lot, usually on Instagram next to a picture of an aesthetic cup of coffee.
Right.
But what does slow travel actually mean when you are executing it?
Right.
Let's trace the physical journey from Bangkok to the island, because this is where the effort part of the equation gets very real.
So the fastest, most sanitized route is flying from Bangkok into Trang Airport, then taking a car. But the demographic that Koh Libong appeals to, the slow travelers, they almost uniformly opt for the train. You start at the massive Krongthep Afiwat Central Terminal in Bangkok. You board a sleeper train, and you are looking at a 15 to 16-hour ride south to Trang Town.
I want people to really visualize a 16-hour train ride.
Yeah.
You aren't just sitting in a seat for a commute. You are living on this train.
Yeah, it's a whole day.
You are watching the urban sprawl of Bangkok slowly melt away into central Thai rice paddies and then eventually into the dense, humid rubber plantations of the south. You're sleeping in a bunk as the tracks rhythmically clack beneath you. For a certain type of traveler, this friction, this long forced deceleration, is actually the reward. They view the inconvenience as a proxy for authenticity.
Exactly. The slow traveler believes that if a place is easy to get to, it's already been ruined.
Right.
The 16-hour train is their badge of honor, but the train is just step one. Once you finally arrive in Trang, bleary-eyed in the morning, you then need to negotiate a taxi or hail a grab ride to a place called Hat Yao Pier.
And how far is that?
That's another 45 to 60 minutes in a car, costing roughly $10 to $18. Or if you flew into Krabi Airport instead, you're looking at a 2-hour overland drive to reach that exact same pier.
Okay, so we've been traveling for roughly 18 hours, and we aren't even on the water yet.
Not yet.
We finally pull up to Hat Yao Pier. You buy a ticket for a wooden long-tail boat. The shared public option is phenomenally cheap. We're talking $3 to maybe $4.50 per person.
It's a great deal.
It is. The crossing itself across the Andaman is short, only about 20 to 30 minutes. You can see the island the whole time. But this is where the reality of Koh Libong's infrastructure hits you square in the face. This is what travel analysts call the tidal landing trap.
Yes. This is a crucial detail that catches so many Western tourists completely off guard. The arrival experience on Koh Libong is a stark, jarring contrast to the polished arrival at places like Koh Samui. When you arrive at Koh Libong, there is no massive, deep-water concrete pier waiting for you on the island side.
These small, motorized longtail boats pull up directly onto a shallow tidal beach.
Let me stop you right there, because I am picturing myself arriving with a suitcase. Are you saying the boat doesn't dock?
Well, it docks, but in the sand. Or rather, in the water above the sand.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the bathymetry of the island, the topography of the ocean floor, features an extremely long, shallow shelf. So if you happen to arrive at low tide, the boat physically cannot get within 50 yards of the dry sand without running aground.
Oh, no.
The captain cuts the engine. You are instructed to step over the wooden side of the boat directly into the Andaman Sea, and you are wading ashore through knee-deep salt water, carrying all of your luggage above your head.
I'm sorry, but wading ashore sounds incredibly romantic right up until the moment I drop a heavy suitcase full of laptops and camera gear into the ocean.
Yeah, it's not ideal for everyone.
I mean, if you are a 22-year-old backpacker with a waterproof canvas pack strapped tightly to your back, wading through the surf is a fantastic story. It's rugged, it's cool.
Right.
But if you are a family of 4 and you've just come off a 16-hour train and you are dragging hard-shell wheeled suitcases through mud and salt water, I mean, that isn't an adventure. That is a miserable, stress-inducing nightmare. Why on earth hasn't the local government just built a proper concrete pier extending out into the deep water?
Because building a deep water pier fundamentally changes the DNA of an island.
No, so.
The lack of a pier isn't just an accident of poor funding. In many ways, it is a structural defense mechanism.
I see.
If you build a deep water concrete pier, you suddenly allow high-speed ferries to dock, you allow larger cargo ships, you pave the way for massive construction equipment to be offloaded. The tidal landing is a natural moat. It physically prevents mass tourism and mega resorts from taking root. The friction is the feature.
That makes total sense. So the lack of a pier forces you to ask a very blunt question about what kind of traveler you are before you even book the ticket. You are either the person who embraces the muddy wade, or you are the person who needs a gangway.
Precisely. And that rustic, low-infrastructure reality continues the second you finally reach the dry sand.
Right, because there's no Uber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You aren't hopping into an air-conditioned luxury minivan to go to your hotel. Transport on Koh Libong relies almost entirely on motorbike sidecar taxis, locally called seagrass, or you can rent your own scooter.
Okay.
The island's hub for this is a place called Star Coffee Bar, which perfectly encapsulates the local economy. It is simultaneously a cafe, the place you rent a scooter for $6 a day, and the island's only functioning petrol pump.
I love that. I'll take an iced latte, a Honda scooter, and 2 liters of gasoline, please.
It's highly efficient. And the roads are narrow, there are virtually no cars, and driving around feels much more like navigating a quiet, working agricultural community than a holiday resort. You'll pass rubber tappers and fishermen fixing nets.
Okay, so we have waded ashore, we have dried off our ankles, we've navigated the sidecar taxi, and we have found our bearings. Where are we actually sleeping? Because earlier, we claimed this was the best value island in the Trang chain. We need to methodically break down the daily budget tiers, and I want to dive into the exact economics of what things cost here.
The pricing structure on Koh Libong is fascinating because it defies the standard Thai island economic model.
Let's start with the backpacker tier.
Sure, if you are traveling on a strict budget, you can comfortably live on Koh Libong for a total of $45 to $60 a day. That includes your room, your food, and your scooter rental.
$45 a day total is phenomenally low. What kind of room does that actually get you?
You're looking at basic, fan-cooled bungalows or village homestays, mostly clustered around the main fishing village of Batu Puteh, also known on some maps as Ban Batu Puteh. The room itself will run you roughly $19 to $28 a night. It will be clean, it will have a mosquito net, and you will likely be staying directly on the property of a local family. You rent that $6 scooter, you eat local street food, and your footprint is minimal.
But I do have a question about this tier. The travel ratings often give Koh Libong an 8 out of 10 for backpackers.
Yeah.
But is it really an 8 out of 10 if there's zero social scene? When I think of a 22-year-old backpacker in Thailand, they usually want a lively hostel, cheap buckets of cocktails, and beach party. Koh Libong has none of that.
It's a very perceptive point. When analysts rate it highly for backpackers, they are specifically referring to the introverted backpacker.
Oh, okay.
The nature lovers, the bird watchers, the people reading a novel in a hammock. If you want a full moon party, Koh Libong is a 0 out of 10. If you want absolute solitude on a budget, it's an 8 out of 10.
Okay, fair distinction. Let's move up a step to the mid-range tier. This is for couples or solo travelers who have outgrown the fan bungalow phase and want a bit more structural comfort.
Right. A comfortable mid-range daily budget here sits at about $70 to $100 per person total. This opens the door to places like the Dugong Libong Beach Resort.
And what does that cost?
During peak season, you are paying roughly $40 to $70 a night.
That's still incredibly reasonable.
It is. For that, you get a solid wooden bungalow directly facing the beach, a private veranda, a good electric fan, and perhaps light functional air conditioning. You'll likely have an open-air in-suite bathroom, and the resort will have its own reliable kitchen attached.
So you get the beachfront aesthetic, you get reliable plumbing, but it is still decidedly rustic. You aren't getting Egyptian cotton sheets.
Definitely not.
Next up is the family tier. If you're traveling with 2 adults and 2 children, the estimated daily budget is roughly $200 to $280 in total.
That budget puts a family in the larger bungalow clusters near Langkaw Beach. This area offers a bit more space to spread out. A larger family room or 2 adjoining bungalows might cost $45 to $90 a night.
Okay, so the rooms aren't much more expensive.
No. The reason the overall daily budget scales up to $280 isn't just the room, it's the logistics of moving a family around. Public transport doesn't exist, so you are constantly hiring sidecar taxis to move 4 people, and your food costs naturally multiply.
And then we reach the top of the pyramid, the luxury tier. And this is where the entire economic model of Koh Libong completely breaks the mold.
Completely.
You look at the data, and the absolute undisputed ceiling for luxury on this island is a place like Andalay Beach Resort.
Right.
The price for their absolute best room in the height of the peak tourist season is roughly $80 to $130 a night.
Which is an astonishingly low ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Your total daily budget for a luxury stay here is estimated at $230 to $360 for everything.
Wait, hold on. I need to make sure I'm reading this right. The absolute peak of luxury, the most expensive, lavish bed you can physically buy on the entire island, is capped at $130 a night.
That's right.
We have to completely recalibrate what the word luxury means for our listeners right now. Because when I hear Thai island luxury, I'm picturing a massive infinity pool, a subterranean spa complex, fine dining sushi restaurants, and someone handing me a cold towel every time I blink.
And you'll find absolutely none of that on Koh Libong. On this island, $130 buys you the nicest swimming pool available and a beautiful, quiet beachfront setting. It buys you a very comfortable mattress and strong air conditioning. It does not buy you a butler. It does not buy you an opulent spa.
But why? Why hasn't some major international hotel chain swooped in, bought up a stretch of beach, and built a $1,000 a night mega resort?
It goes entirely back to the logistics we discussed earlier. The lack of a deepwater pier is the bottleneck.
Ah, the tidal landing again.
Exactly. To build a massive 5-star resort, you need to transport thousands of tons of concrete, steel rebar, industrial water pumps, and heavy machinery. You cannot transport a cement mixer on a wooden longtail boat.
No, I imagine not.
The physical inability to bring heavy construction materials ashore organically prevents mega resorts from being built. Furthermore, the island lacks the municipal mainland power grids and water treatment facilities required to sustain a 500-room luxury hotel.
So the environment itself legally and physically enforces this low economic ceiling? Are we essentially just paying $130 for the privilege of silence?
In many ways, yes. You are paying for space, a private pool, and absolute tranquility. And if we look at what this pricing structure does to the island's demographics, it acts as a massive filter.
How so?
Well, it naturally repels travelers who demand high-end pampering and extreme convenience. It magnetically attracts slow travelers and people who find comfort in simplicity.
But there is a catch to the simplicity, right? Scarcity.
Major scarcity.
Yeah. The data highlights that the total room stock on Koh Libong is incredibly tiny. We're talking about a few dozen truly usable, high-quality rooms across the entire island. So if you try to book during the peak months of December through February or during a major Thai public holiday, the island simply runs out of beds. It sells out weeks, sometimes months in advance.
That scarcity creates an intense booking pressure. People assume that because it's a quiet, unknown island, they can just show up on a Tuesday and grab a beachfront shack.
Right.
You can't. The infrastructure is so limited that it hits 100% capacity very quickly. You have to be highly intentional about planning a trip here.
So if you aren't spending your money on high-end spa treatments and expensive cocktails, you're mostly going to be spending it on food. Which brings us to a fascinating part of this deep dive, the culinary scene, and crucially, the cultural etiquette of living and eating on Koh Libong.
Right.
Because this is not your typical westernized tourist bubble.
Not at all. And this is vital to understand before you go. Koh Libong is a working Muslim-majority fishing island. That cultural foundation dictates almost everything about the day-to-day rhythm and experience there.
Let's talk about the food first, because it sounds incredible. The seafood economy here is hyper-local. We mentioned in the intro that a sprawling dinner for two is about $16. What does that actually look like on the plate?
Because the island's primary industry is fishing, the supply chain from the ocean to your plate is measured in hours, not days.
Wow.
Yeah. For roughly $8 a head, you are getting a whole, freshly steamed fish caught that morning, a massive plate of yellow curry crab, steamed rice, and drinks. The value proposition is staggering because you are cutting out all the mainland transport and refrigeration costs.
And it's not fancy dining rooms. It's small, family-run kitchens. You have places like Mini Thai food, where you can grab a phenomenal bowl of chicken noodle soup or a spicy pad krapao for maybe $2 or $3.
It's so cheap.
You have Roti Banbang in the village, serving these crispy sweet banana rotis for $1.
A single dollar.
And for sunset, everyone naturally gravitates to Zin Samud Bar on the western shore.
But, and this is a massive asterisk for the typical Southeast Asia backpacker, you must understand and respect the local etiquette.
Right.
Because it is a Muslim-majority community, the rules of engagement are entirely different than they are in a place like Phuket or Koh Phangan.
Right. What's so interesting here is how the local culture firmly shapes the tourist infrastructure, rather than the tourist money reshaping the local culture. The community has held its ground. Let's talk about dress codes.
Away from the immediate resort beaches, you are absolutely expected to dress modestly out of respect for the villagers. If you decide to walk through the main fishing village of Batu Buta to buy some snacks or see the boats, you do not do it in a bikini or shirtless.
Definitely not.
You cover your shoulders and knees. You also need to ask permission before photographing the locals, fixing their nets, or working on their houses. This is their permanent home, you know? It is not a cultural exhibit designed for your Instagram feed.
And then there is the alcohol situation. Let's be honest. A huge percentage of tourism in Thailand is built around cheap, highly accessible alcohol.
It really is.
If you're used to the party islands where every 7-Eleven sells liquor and there are bucket drink stands on the beach, Koh Libong is going to be a massive shock to your system. Alcohol is scarce.
It is not entirely dry, but it is heavily restricted by custom. You can find a beer. A large Leo beer at a western-facing resort like Dugong might run you about 100 baht, which is roughly $3.
Okay.
But it is definitely not served automatically at every local kitchen, and it is actively discouraged to be seen drinking in the main villages or in the traditional homestays. There are no neon-lit bar strips. There are no pub crawls.
It really sounds like visiting a quiet, rural, deeply traditional neighborhood where everyone knows each other. You are a guest in their living room.
Exactly.
But beyond the lack of alcohol, the infrastructure itself is highly rural. There are no massive supermarkets, and, perhaps most terrifyingly for a modern traveler, there are absolutely no ATMs that you can rely on.
None.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If I can't easily buy a beer, and I can't even withdraw cash to pay for my $16 dinner, how do people not constantly get caught out by this?
The short answer is, well, they do get caught out all the time.
Really?
Yeah. The lack of banking infrastructure is purely mathematical. It costs a tremendous amount of money for a bank to maintain an ATM, secure the cash, and hire an armored boat to transport cash across the sea to a remote island with only a few thousand residents. It's not profitable, so they don't do it.
Which means the traveler bears the burden of preparation. And that exact logistical hurdle leads us directly into a vital part of this deep dive.
This is so important.
If you're taking notes on whether to book this trip, you need to listen to this next part carefully. We are going to walk through the major pitfalls that ruin trips to Koh Libong. Let's weave these into the story of a hypothetical, unprepared traveler. Let's call him Dave.
I like this. Let's talk about Dave's mistakes because they map perfectly onto the 3 biggest traps of Koh Libong.
So Dave is planning his trip. Mistake number 1, which we've already discussed extensively, is the Dugong guarantee trap.
Poor Dave.
Dave reads a blog from 2019. He sees a picture of a dugong. He books 3 nights on the island with the sole intention of seeing this animal. He gets there, pays $60 for a private long-tailed boat, wakes up at dawn, and stares at a muddy, dead seagrass bed for 3 hours. He sees nothing. He feels scammed, even though nature didn't owe him anything.
Dave's financial cost was the $60 boat ride, but the real cost was the wasted detour. He spent 2 days of his vacation chasing a ghost.
Right.
The fix for this is purely psychological. If you go to Koh Libong, treat any dugong or sea turtle sighting as an absolute lottery win, a pure bonus. Do not make it the structural focal point of your itinerary.
Okay, so Dave is already disappointed. Let's rewind to how Dave actually got to the island, because he made mistake number 2, the last boat trap.
Oh, this is a classic error.
Dave decides to fly into Trang Airport, but he books a cheap, late-afternoon flight. He lands at 3:30 p.m. He takes a taxi to Hat Yao Pier, arriving around 5:00 p.m. What happens to Dave?
Dave is in trouble. The public long-tail boats, the ones that cost $3.50, operate on a very informal, demand-driven daytime schedule.
Meaning what exactly?
As the afternoon wears on and the local workers head home, those public boats thin out sharply and usually stop completely by late afternoon. When Dave arrives at 5:80 p.m., the cheap boats are gone.
So Dave is standing on a concrete pier as the sun starts to set.
Exactly. And now Dave has 2 terrible options. He can either negotiate a forced private charter with the remaining captain, which is suddenly going to cost him $30 to $45 instead of $3.
Ouch.
Or, if the weather is turning bad and the captains refuse to sail in the dark, Dave is physically stranded on the mainland in Trang for the night, losing his prepaid hotel room on the island.
The actionable golden rule here is so simple. You must structure your travel to reach Hat Yao Pier by early afternoon. 1:00 p.m. or 2:00 p.m. at the latest. Do not plan a same-day arrival on the island if your flight or train gets in late. Spend the night on the mainland.
Which brings us to mistake number 3, which is where Dave really hits rock bottom, the amenity and connectivity trap.
Right.
Let's say Dave makes it to the island, he wades ashore, he goes to his mid-range bungalow, he goes to pay the remainder of his bill, and the owner says, cash only. Dave confidently pulls out his debit card and asks, where is the nearest ATM?
And the owner points across the ocean to the mainland.
Exactly. Because there is no reliable ATM, Dave is completely stuck. He doesn't have the cash to pay for his room, his scooter, or his food.
So what does he do? He can't just walk to a 7-Eleven.
The only solution for Dave is to hire an emergency private boat to take him all the way back across the sea to Trang, find an ATM, withdraw money, and hire another boat to come back.
Are you kidding?
No. He just burned half a day of his vacation and $30 to $40 in boat fees simply to get access to his own money.
It's a completely unforced error. The absolute golden rule of this island is that you must bring an arrival-proof cash stash from the mainland.
Yes, arrival-proof.
The recommended baseline is 10,000 Thai baht, which is roughly $275 US. That stash should comfortably cover a few days of accommodation, food, and transport without any panic.
But Dave's nightmare isn't over yet, because Dave is a digital nomad. He planned to stay on the island for a month, working remotely to pay for his trip.
And on paper, Koh Libong looks like a digital nomad's absolute dream.
It really does.
If you factor in a monthly rate for a basic bungalow, cheap local food, and scooter rental, a nomad could live here for roughly $1,200 to $1,700 a month. That is vastly cheaper than trying to survive in a gentrified hotspot like Phuket or Chiang Mai.
It is remarkably cheap. But travel analysts consistently give Koh Libong a dismal 4 out of 10 rating for digital nomads.
Why is that?
Because the connectivity infrastructure is fundamentally incompatible with modern remote work. There are no co-working spaces with ergonomic chairs. But more importantly, the Wi-Fi is basic, heavily strained, and frequently drops out.
So Dave sits down in his beachfront bungalow, opens his laptop, and tries to dial into a crucial Zoom meeting with his client in New York. The connection buffers, his audio cuts out, his screen freezes, and he loses the client.
Exactly. The paradox of the digital nomad is that they crave off-the-grid authenticity, but they require first-world fiber optic broadband to fund it.
That is so true.
Koh Libong violently exposes that paradox. You simply cannot rely on the infrastructure here for high-bandwidth tasks.
So the cheap monthly budget is totally irrelevant if you can't actually earn the money to pay it. You aren't booking a remote office, you are booking an enforced digital detox, whether you want to be off the grid or not.
And if we look at the ultimate multiplier for all of these logistical traps, it always comes back to one thing: the weather.
Oh, the weather.
Timing is the single biggest lever you have when planning a trip to the Andaman Sea. It dictates everything.
Let's talk about the weather gamble. The optimal window is very narrow and very clear. December, January, February, and March. That is the sweet spot.
Yes.
February in particular is cited as having the calmest, glassiest seas.
During those 4 months, the water is calm.
The long-tail crossings from the mainland are smooth and reliable. And crucially, if you want to island hop to nearby places like Koh Mook or Koh Kraden, those boat connections are running on schedule.
Right.
If you're going to spot a dugong, February offers the absolute best, though still statistically slim odds because the water clarity is at its peak.
But if you look at the calendar from May through October, the dynamic of the entire region completely inverts. This is the southwest monsoon.
And we need to clarify what monsoon means here. Western tourists often think a monsoon means it rains for an hour in the afternoon and then clears up.
Like Florida.
Right, exactly. But in the Andaman, the southwest monsoon is a structural weather event. It is a season of heavy, relentless rain, highly aggressive winds, and rough, churning seas.
The crossing from Hat Yao Pier goes from a pleasant 20-minute ride to a terrifying, violent slog over massive swells. Sometimes the local captains just look at the sky and refuse to go, meaning the island's essentially cut off.
Completely cut off.
A lot of the small, family-run restaurants and homestays just board at their windows and close entirely for the season.
Which leaves us with what analysts call the shoulder season gamble. Late October, November, and April.
The tricky months.
Very tricky. During these months, the weather is transitioning. You will absolutely find cheaper room rates, and the island will be wonderfully, starkly empty. But you are rolling the dice with the atmosphere.
You might get a week of glorious sunshine, or you might get a week of howling wind. And if you get a blown-out windy morning, the sea becomes too rough for the small boats to go out over the seagrass beds. Your trip is canceled. You risk the weather to save $30 on a room, and you lost the one activity you came for.
So to synthesize this rather daunting list of challenges, we have an island with a vanishing, starving wildlife population, no powder white luxury beaches, a high risk of wading through mud with your luggage, a complete lack of ATMs, terrible Wi-Fi, and a monsoon season that essentially shuts the place down.
Hearing all of that in a row, a listener would be completely justified in asking, why on earth would anyone go here?
It sounds rough when you put it like that.
If Koh Libong has all these traps, what actually works? What is the genuine draw? Because there has to be a reason people still love it. And if it doesn't sound right for our listener, where should they pivot to instead?
It is absolutely crucial to highlight the genuine wings of this island because for a specific psychological profile of traveler, Koh Libong is pure magic.
Okay, let's hear the wins.
First and foremost, the sunsets. The sunsets at Langkaw Beach, especially if you grab a spot at Zin Samut Bar, are world-class. They are free, they are reliable, and they are visually stunning, with the sun dropping directly behind the limestone karsts in the distance.
And the geography of the island itself offers some fantastic, low-key, unguided exploration.
Right.
There is a really wonderful short hike up a series of wooden stairs to the Dugong viewpoint and cave at Batu Putih. Even if you don't see a sea cow from up there, which, again, you probably won't, the panoramic elevated view looking down over the sprawling seagrass flats and the shifting tidal colors is easily the best vista on the island.
It's gorgeous.
You might even spot a grazing sea turtle popping his head up if the water is calm.
There is also Stonebridge Beach on the northwest coast. At low tide, the receding water exposes this incredible natural rock archway carved by the ocean. It's a genuine, dramatic, photographic payoff. You can walk right under it. And again, it costs absolutely nothing. You don't need a guide.
And beyond the geography, the real draw is the rhythm of the place. Just walking or riding your scooter slowly through Batu Putih Fishing Village offers an unvarnished, deeply authentic look at working island life.
It really does.
You see the wooden houses built on stilts over the water. You smell the drying fish. You hear the call to prayer. It is a window into a Thailand that is getting harder and harder to find as megatourism pays over everything else.
It is the simplicity that is the ultimate draw. You are buying an escape from the hyper-commercialized world. But we have to be brutally honest with our listeners.
Right.
If you've been listening to this entire deep dive and thinking to yourself, you know what, I appreciate authenticity, but I really just want a perfect, pristine beach to swim in. Or I really want a guaranteed amazing photo op without having to roll the dice on a starving sea cow, Koh Libong is not for you.
And that is perfectly fine. Not every island is for every traveler. The great news is that the Hat Yao Pier acts as a hub for several different islands in the Trang cluster. This makes pivoting your itinerary incredibly easy. The data provides two excellent immediate alternatives depending on what you prioritize.
Yes. The first alternative is Koh Kraden. This is your immediate swap if your priority is a world-class beach.
Koh Libong is famous for having some of the absolute best, softest, swimmable powder sand in all in Thailand.
Oh, it's incredible.
The water is that shocking, glowing turquoise. You can put on a snorkel mask and swim straight off the shore onto a vibrant coral reef. It is visually flawless.
But that aesthetic perfection comes at a steep economic and cultural cost. The mid-range rooms on Koh Libong are significantly pricier than Libong, often sitting between $60 and $120 a night for a basic bungalow. There are virtually no true budget options.
And the cultural trade-off is massive. Koh Libong is almost entirely resort-focused. It delivers 100% on the postcard aesthetic you see in magazines, but it completely lacks the village culture, the cheap local street food, and the working authenticity of Koh Libong. It's a beautiful bubble.
Exactly. So that is the beach swap. The second alternative is Koh Mook, and this is the swap for the traveler who wants a guaranteed bankable attraction.
Koh Mook is broadly similar in price and vibe to Koh Libong. You can find budget rooms in the low 20s, and if you want to hop between the two islands, a private long-tail boat runs about $42.
Right.
But instead of a volatile, highly unlikely wildlife gamble, Koh Mook features a spectacular guaranteed geological attraction, the Emerald Cave or Morakot Cave.
The Emerald Cave is a massive concrete highlight. You hire a guide, you swim through an 80-meter pitch-black tunnel in the limestone cliff, and you emerge into this hidden open-air lagoon with a secret beach surrounded by towering cliffs.
See, I want the bond, not the volatile stock. The cave doesn't migrate. The cave doesn't starve. It's an incredibly reliable experience. You go there, you swim through the dark tunnel, you see the hidden beach, you take the photo, boom, checklist complete. You feel like you get your money's worth.
This comparison really highlights the fascinating psychology of choice in travel. Every island demands a different mindset.
It really does.
Koh Libong requires a traveler who is highly comfortable with ambiguity. Maybe we see a turtle, maybe we don't. Maybe we wade ashore in the mud, maybe we don't. The joy is in the presence, not the checklist.
Right.
Koh Libong is for the traveler seeking pure aesthetic relaxation and comfort, and Koh Mook is for the checklist traveler who wants a defined, guaranteed return on their experiential and financial investment.
I absolutely love that breakdown. If we look at it through the lens of movies, Koh Libong is this slow burn, atmospheric, slightly melancholic indie film. Koh Libong is the glossy, high-budget, visually stunning blockbuster. And Koh Mook feels like the reliable, satisfying crowd pleaser. Honestly, if I am a tourist with limited vacation days and I have to choose between a 100% chance of swimming through a really cool hidden cave on Koh Mook and a 10% chance of spotting a dugong on Koh Libong, isn't Koh Mook just the objectively smarter, safer bet for most people?
For the median average tourist looking for a standard vacation, yes, absolutely. Koh Mook provides a much more structured, reliable reward system. Which brings us directly to the final, honest verdict of this deep dive. Exactly who should hit book on Koh Libong in 2026 and who should run the other way. Let's look at the worth it matrix we've compiled.
Let's run through the final numbers. We'll start with the backpacker. The rating here is a very solid 8 out of 10.
And based on everything we've discussed, that makes total sense, provided we define the backpacker correctly.
Right, the introverted backpacker.
Exactly. If your goal is cheap, quiet, unvarnished authenticity, and you are fine reading a book instead of partying, the value is incredible. You can have a highly comfortable, fascinating day for under $60, but you skip it if you require a social hostel scene or cheap nightlife.
Makes sense. For the mid-range traveler or couple, the rating drops slightly to a 7 out of 10.
It's a great destination for beachfront calm. Spending $50 to $80 for a comfortable bungalow at a place like Dugong is a great deal, as long as you calibrate your expectations.
Meaning the wildlife.
Yes. You must treat any dugong sighting as a pure bonus, not the goal of the trip. And you must skip it if you demand that pristine, swimmable powder sand, because the beaches here are more tidal and rustic.
For the family demographic, the rating falls significantly to a 6 out of 10.
The friction here is just too real for most families. The tidal landings where you are wading ashore with luggage, the need to constantly rent sidecar taxis to move kids around, and crucially, the complete lack of a medical hospital on the island.
Oh, that's a big one.
Huge. If a child gets seriously sick or injured, you are relying on an emergency boat to the mainland. It is only worth it for very confident, highly experienced, low-maintenance traveling families.
And finally, for the luxury traveler and the digital nomad, the rating is a hard, definitive 4 out of 10.
An absolute skip. If you need high-end polish, 5-star room service, high-speed internet for video calls, or a curated social scene, your money is completely wasted here. It is better spent almost anywhere else in the Andaman, like Koh Lanta or Phuket.
So if we synthesize all of this data, all of this ecology, and all of these logistics, what is the overarching macro lesson of Koh Libong in 2026?
The overarching lesson is that Koh Libong is a masterclass in managing travel expectations.
Right.
The destination itself didn't necessarily get worse. It is still a beautiful, quiet, deeply welcoming fishing island. The core problem is that the global travel marketing machine simply hasn't caught up to the harsh ecological reality. The foundational wildlife guarantee that once justified all the logistical friction and the long detours simply no longer exists.
You have to ruthlessly audit your own expectations before you go. If you go for the silence, the $16 seafood dinners, the local culture, and the sunsets, you will likely fall in love with it. If you go purely for the sea cows, you will leave frustrated, lighter in the wallet, and feeling betrayed. We want to thank you for wading ashore with us today, dealing with the tidal landings and exploring the intricate nuances of Trang's quietest, most complicated hub.
It has been a truly fascinating journey to unpack. And before we go, I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to mull over.
Go for it.
We've talked extensively today about the ecological collapse of the seagrass and the tragic starvation of the dugongs, but consider the broader human element. When a destination's entire global identity, marketing strategy, and microeconomy have been built for decades on a single vanishing species, how does that community successfully pivot its identity without losing its soul in the process?
That is a massive question.
As climate shifts continue to fundamentally alter habitats globally, is Koh Libong just an isolated tragedy, or is it a glaring warning sign for thousands of other wildlife-dependent economies around the world?
It really makes you wonder how we adapt when the guaranteed spectacles of nature vanish, and we are left just looking at the landscape. Keep questioning those glossy travel brochures, dig into the reality of where you're going, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive. If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day. That is The Honest Verdict from Phil and H.